For half a century, Lily Tomlin made the world laugh while quietly carrying battles that few ever saw. She was the woman who could slip into a dozen characters in a single performance, who mocked corporations on national television, and who turned comedy into a weapon against hypocrisy. Yet behind the sharp wit and the awards was a life shaped by silence, sacrifice, and choices that cut deeper than punchlines. Now, at 85, she has revealed truths that were never about fame or fortune, but about what it really cost to hold on to love and to survive in a world that wasn't ready for her honesty. Roots in Detroit and the First Stage. Lily Tomlin was born on September 1st, 1939, in Detroit, Michigan, just as the world was descending into war. Her parents, Guy and Lily Mae, had left Paducah, Kentucky during the Great Depression in search of a better life. Her father took a factory job while her mother worked as a nurse's aide. They raised Lily and her younger brother Richard in a modest apartment building on Louise Avenue in Highland Park, a working-class neighborhood filled with factory families. It was here that Lily's lifelong fascination with voices and characters began. By the age of 6, she was staging little shows in her backyard, writing skits, designing costumes, and roping Richard into performing. She didn't just imitate neighbors, she studied them, absorbing the rhythms of their speech and the quirks of their movements, the gossiping women on the stoop, the weary postmen, the booming voices of factory workers. All of them became material. Those childhood games were more than play. They were rehearsals for a career built on transformation. In 1953, Lily earned her place at Cass Technical High School, a selective institution that demanded strong grades. There she was exposed to rigorous coursework and a structured environment that would shape her discipline. She graduated in 1957, sharing an alma mater with future stars like Diana Ross. At that point, she wasn't dreaming of the stage. Her parents hoped she would pursue a stable career, and Lily followed the plan by enrolling at Wayne State University, majoring in biology with the intention of becoming a doctor. But that path would not last. Everything changed when she auditioned for a school play on a whim. The exhilaration of performance hit her with a force she couldn't ignore. She abandoned medicine and turned to theater, a risky decision for a young woman from a working-class family, but one that set the stage for a lifetime of reinvention, struggling for a voice in New York. By the late 1950s, Detroit had given Lily Tomlin all it could. She had performed in coffee houses and nightclubs, sometimes earning no more than $15 a night. But her unconventional style, long character sketches instead of quick punchlines, confused club owners. Audiences were used to women telling jokes about dating or housework. Lily was different. She embodied cranky telephone operators, moody teenagers, or nosy neighbors. It was sharp, human, and real, but it didn't fit the mold. In 1965, she made the leap to New York City with less than $200 in her pocket. She settled in the East Village, living in a fifth-floor walk-up that cost $60 a month. To survive, she worked as a waitress at Howard Johnson's, often joking with customers over the intercom, just to make the drudgery bearable. Subway fare was sometimes a luxury, so she walked the streets between auditions and late-night sets. She haunted the smoky clubs of Greenwich Village, the Improv, Café Au Go Go, where she performed to tiny crowds. Agents told her to smile more, dress sexier, or tell jokes about finding a husband. One even advised her to be more normal if she wanted steady work. Lily refused. She had studied Ruth Draper, the legendary monologist who could transform into dozens of characters using only her voice and body. Lily wanted to carry that tradition into a modern setting, even if it meant slower progress and less money. Her persistence paid off in 1966 when she landed a spot on The Gary Moore Show. For the first time, she had national exposure. She didn't tell one-liners. She performed fully fleshed characters, unpredictable and inventive. In one bit, she taped metal taps to her bare feet instead of wearing shoes, dancing awkwardly to prove a point about convention. It was absurd, but it worked. Industry insiders noticed that she wasn't like anyone else. Still, the real breakthrough came at the end of the decade. In 1969, Lily took a gamble on television again, auditioning for Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. The show was already a cultural phenomenon, fast-paced, irreverent, and unlike anything else on TV. At first, she wasn't sure she fit the style, but her audition impressed producer George Schlatter. He gave her the freedom to create her own characters. That single opportunity would change everything. The Laugh-In years and a reluctant star. When Lily Tomlin joined Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In December 1969, she walked into chaos. The variety show was already a hit, notorious for its breakneck pacing, oddball gags, and subversive jabs at politics. Most cast members thrived on one-liners, but Lily did something different. She performed characters. That gamble changed her life. The first sensation was Ernestine, the cranky telephone operator with a nasal snort and a sly smile. Ernestine embodied the frustration of ordinary Americans dealing with the monopolistic phone company. She would ask customers if they could be home between April and November for a service call, mocking how powerless people were against corporate giants. Viewers couldn't get enough. Soon, grocery shoppers and fans on the street begged Lily to do the voice. The snort, which had happened accidentally during one performance, became Ernestine's signature. Then came Edith Ann, a 5-year-old perched in an oversized rocking chair, ending her lines with a raspberry and the catchphrase, "And that's the truth." She wasn't just cute. She was sharp, sometimes melancholy, reflecting the anxieties of childhood that adults rarely acknowledged. Children repeated her lines at school. Parents quoted her at dinner tables. Lily had tapped into something deeper than comedy. She had given voice to ordinary frustrations and hidden truths. But fame came with battles. By 1973, when producer George Schlatter left, network executives began pushing for safer material. They wanted Lily to soften Ernestine and make Edith Ann more palatable. She refused. "Do you think my characters aren't real?" she once argued. "They're out there somewhere. I just imitate them." The conflict escalated to the point that she sued NBC to break her contract, unwilling to compromise. That defiance defined her career. In 1971, she released her first comedy album, This Is a Recording, performed entirely in character as Ernestine. Recorded live at the Ice House in Pasadena, it climbed to number 15 on the Billboard 200 and won the Grammy for Best Comedy Recording, making her the first woman to win the award solo. Decades later, in 2024, the Library of Congress preserved it in the National Recording Registry as a work of cultural significance. By the mid-1970s, Lily was no longer just a television personality. She had become a cultural force, admired for her fearlessness and originality. But she wanted more than sketch comedy. She was ready to test herself in film, and her first attempt would take her straight to the Oscars, from Nashville to Hollywood fame. In 1975, Lily Tomlin made a leap that stunned even her fans. Robert Altman, known for his sprawling ensemble films, invited her to join Nashville. At first, Lily hesitated. She had never acted in a film before and worried she couldn't measure up. The role of Linnea Reese, a gospel singer and mother of 2 deaf children who drifts into an affair with a country star, was quiet and restrained, a far cry from Ernestine's outrageous antics. But Altman insisted, and Lily trusted her instincts. When Nashville premiered that summer, critics were floored. In a movie filled with overlapping dialogue and 24 main characters, Lily delivered a performance of astonishing subtlety. Her scenes, especially those where she communicates tenderly with her deaf children, left audiences in tears. Reviewers called her a revelation. The Academy took notice, too. She earned an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress in 1976. For someone with no prior film experience, It was extraordinary. The success opened doors, but Lily moved carefully. She didn't want to be trapped in shallow roles. In 1977, she starred in The Late Show as Margot, an eccentric woman teaming up with an aging detective. The film won her the Silver Bear for Best Actress at the Berlin International Film Festival and another Golden Globe nomination. Hollywood now saw her not just as a comedian, but as a serious actress with range. Still, her transition to film was never without conflict. She turned down scripts that painted women as dumb blondes or nagging wives, even when the money was tempting. She demanded characters with depth, refusing to sell out for stardom. That insistence made her reputation in Hollywood both admired and difficult. The 1980s marked her arrival as a mainstream star. In 1980, she joined Jane Fonda and Dolly Parton in 9 to 5, playing Violet, a widowed mother overlooked by her sexist boss. Lily embodied the frustrations of countless women in the workplace. The film became one of the highest-grossing movies of the year, turning workplace satire into a cultural moment. Just 3 years later, she reunited with her partner Jane Wagner for The Incredible Shrinking Woman, a sci-fi comedy skewering consumer culture. In 1984, she starred with Steve Martin in All of Me, a screwball hit that showcased their electric chemistry. But while the public saw success after success, Lily's private life remained carefully guarded. By then, she was deeply in love with Jane Wagner, the writer she had met in 1971. Together, they were building groundbreaking theater and film projects, but almost no one outside their circle knew the truth. The cost of that silence was heavy, even as her career soared. A love hidden in plain sight. Behind the acclaim, the laughter, and the awards, Lily Tomlin was living a double life. In March 1971, she had met Jane Wagner, a gifted writer whose Peabody-winning TV script JT had impressed her. The introduction was supposed to be professional. Lily needed a writer for a new comedy project. But the moment Jane walked into the room, Lily felt something shift. Within minutes, she knew this was more than collaboration. Jane didn't just write for me, Lily later said. She wrote me. From that day forward, their lives intertwined. Together, they created the one-woman shows that made Lily a Broadway legend, including The Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe in 1985, where Lily embodied a dozen characters in 117 uninterrupted minutes. Jane wrote the words, Lily brought them alive, and together they shaped a new form of theatrical comedy. But while their art was fearless, their personal lives were constrained by the times. Hollywood in the 1970s and 1980s was merciless toward openly gay actors. For a woman at the height of her career, coming out could mean blacklisting. Time magazine once offered Lily the cover in 1975 if she would publicly declare her sexuality. She refused. They weren't interested in me as an artist, she recalled. They wanted a sensational story. To her, reducing her career to a headline felt like betrayal. So she and Jane lived in silence. At red carpets, Jane was introduced as a collaborator. In interviews, Lily deflected questions, sometimes with humor, sometimes with evasions. Her mother, a devout Southern Baptist, never knew the truth. Lily feared it would devastate her. For decades, they endured this quiet erasure, choosing privacy over exposure. We didn't hide, Lily explained years later. We just didn't perform. The silence had a cost. There were nights when Jane sat in the audience watching Lily take bows, her name left unspoken. There were whispers in tabloids, reporters camping outside their home, hoping for proof. But Lily refused to give them her love story. Jane deserved more than gossip, she said. She deserved devotion. For over 40 years, they lived this way. Partners in art, partners in life, invisible to the world, but essential to each other. Only in December 2013, after same-sex marriage became legal in California, did they finally marry. The ceremony was small, without spectacle. After 4 decades of waiting, they exchanged rings found in Lily's jewelry box. It was understated, almost ordinary. Yet for them, it was a victory, a quiet triumph over a lifetime of enforced silence. Legacy, Grace and Frankie, and the truth at 85. By the time Lily Tomlin married Jane Wagner in 2013, her career had already spanned more than 5 decades, yet she wasn't slowing down. In 2014, she became the first openly lesbian performer to receive the Kennedy Center honors, standing alongside Tom Hanks, Sting, and Al Green. It was more than recognition of her art. It was a symbolic moment, a celebration of a woman who had built a career on her own terms while quietly defying Hollywood's unwritten rules. Then came Grace and Frankie in 2015, the Netflix series that paired her once again with Jane Fonda. Lily played Frankie Bergstein, a free-spirited artist suddenly forced to rebuild her life when her husband leaves her for another man. The show ran for 7 seasons until 2022, making it Netflix's longest-running original comedy. For Lily, the role was more than just a job. It was a reflection of her own life. A woman in her 70s, navigating love, identity, aging, and friendship with honesty and humor. Behind the scenes, Jane Wagner contributed quietly, shaping dialogue and themes just as she always had. Even in her late 70s and 80s, Lily continued to take risks. In 2015, she starred in the indie film Grandma, shot in just 19 days for a fraction of a Hollywood budget. Her portrayal of a sharp-tongued poet helping her granddaughter in crisis earned her a Golden Globe nomination at 76. In 2023, she reunited with Jane Fonda in Moving On, and in January 2025, she was honored with a hand and footprint ceremony at the TCL Chinese Theater, immortalizing her place among Hollywood legends. Yet in interviews today, Lily talks less about awards and more about love. At 85, she admits the hardest part was never being gay. It was allowing herself to be seen. "We lost moments to fear," she said, "but we gained decades in love." For her, the legacy she hopes to leave is not only the comedy albums, the films, or the television milestones, but the story of how she protected what mattered most, a love that endured when the world tried to erase it. Her final message is simple. The greatest act of her life was not comedy, but devotion. Lily Tomlin broke barriers, redefined comedy, and built a career that spanned generations. But in the end, her most powerful story is the one she spent decades protecting. What do you think defines her legacy more, the fearless comedy or the quiet love she finally revealed? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.